move on then. And well, the other news from yesterday was the UK-German treaty, and Keir Starmer met German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Downing Street yesterday following the signing of a new UK-Germany bilateral treaty described as the first of its kind. But it isn't really the first of its kind, is it, Patrick? At least such a suggestion is semantic, really, isn't it?
Well, there was previous pacts between Germany and Britain, Mike, and we only have to look at this illustrious celebration here. This is Neville Chamberlain returning to Britain with a document in hand after the 1938 Munich Agreement, Peace in Our Time, and that was about joining forces with Germany. And we have to tip our hats to a great historian and a journalist. His name is Kit Clarenberg, and he published this not so long ago, Mike, on May 4th, The Anglo-Nazi Global Empire That Almost Was, a little piece of history that's been swept under the rug. Let's take a look at the details of this. How deep did this go? Well, take a look. Basically, from Britain's perspective, the Munich Agreement was intended to be just the start of a wider process that would culminate in a, quote, listen to this, world political partnership, end of quote, between London and Berlin. 2 months prior, the Federation of British Industries, known as the Confederation of British Industry today, made contact with its German counterpart, the Reich Group Industry, and the two of them eagerly agreed their respective governments would enter into formal negotiations on an Anglo-Nazi economic integration. How about that for a little bit of history? And then just finally, and this is the depth of it here, the summit went swimmingly, and a formal conference in Dusseldorf was then scheduled. Coincidentally, though, however, Mike, later that evening in Berlin, something called the Kristallnacht erupted. This is one of the most infamous pogroms in history, but wait, that was no deterrent to continue discussions and meetings between the Nazis and the British at the time. They inked in a formal agreement on the creation of an international Anglo-Nazi coal cartel. So you can see it was all guns blazing for a German-British pact back then in 1938. How about that for pedigree on this issue?
Well, let's come closer to the modern time then. Another example of the non-uniqueness of this new agreement is the Trinity House Agreement signed last year by John Healey and German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Now, that was a different German regime, but nonetheless, this brought the two nations closer together than ever before, they said at the time. Now, that agreement covered more or less the same areas as the current one, or the new one. So let's just have a look at these new long-range strike weapons that we're talking about, new boost for British industry. So there's this narrative. I mean, Starmer was elected on the basis of change. But this was the same. There's no change here. New cooperation to strengthen the eastern flank. This is also in the current agreement. Land industrial cooperation, protecting critical underwater infrastructure,
like the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. German planes in Scotland, new drones, new maritime uncrewed air system capabilities, new Ukraine support, joint work with partners to integrate air defense systems. And what was this all about? This was all about creating this, which is effectively the trifecta, the European level trifecta that is driving European defense. And this was happening even before Trump's election, would be the point that I'm making here. So, between Britain and France, with the 2010 Lancaster House Treaty, 2018 Sandhurst Treaties, 2018 Joint Vision Statement between Britain and Germany, the 2024 Trinity House Agreement, and then between Germany and France, the 2019 Aachen Treaty. And the intent was, as I say, to establish the UK, France and Germany as the main driving force for defence union in Europe, and the European Intervention Initiative is as the broader framework. So if we just look at that, this brings the trifecta there of Germany, France and Britain, together with several other European nations, to build this network of bilateral agreements, which creates this multilateral agreement. Now, at the time, Ursula von der Leyen's predecessor, Jean-Claude Juncker, put it that this patchwork of bilateral defence pacts will serve as a foundation for European defence, with Britain, France and Germany as the core. So that was what was being said at the time, and we shouldn't forget what Defence Minister Earl Howe said about it, that he signed He signed in the UK into the European Intervention Initiative. The agreement states EI2 intends to contribute to ongoing efforts within the European Union to deepen defence cooperation, notably PESCO, which, of course, as we know, is a key part of the European Defence Union. So coming back to the present then, and yesterday there was a press conference held. Let's just have a listen to what Keir Starmer had to say.
Earlier today, we did something genuinely unprecedented. Building on our new agreement with the EU, together we signed the Kensington Treaty, the first ever major bilateral treaty between the United Kingdom and Germany, two great modern European nations. It's an expression of our shared aims and values. But more than that, it's a practical work plan, setting out 17 major projects where we will come together to deliver real results which will improve people's lives. So a historic treaty, a statement of intent and ambition. And we intend to do, amongst other things, as leading NATO powers in Europe, committing not only to our mutual defence, but also to maximise the benefits of our defence spending in the shape of more jobs, more growth, and more security.
So, Patrick, more jobs, more growth. He's saying it's going to improve people's lives. It's not really going to improve some people's lives. It's going to improve people that manage to get jobs in the war industry. But what about all the people that are going to have to deal with, well, what are they going to have to deal with? Because somehow this has to be paid for.
Oh, haven't you heard? They discovered oil in Germany, Mike. It's there's a big desert in the middle of Germany, and they discovered oil. So I guess that's going to pay for it. And they discovered gold in the Netherlands. So don't worry about all that. That's just a formality, Mike. No, it means austerity. It's going to be deficit spending. It's going to be tightening the economy, and it's going to mean austerity for social services, pensions, all sorts of other things that people in Europe require, especially people who are vulnerable. That's all going to be on the chopping block to pay for rearming Europe. That's the plan.
Okay, well, anyway, the question is what's in this treaty? Well, there are 17 main areas of cooperation, they say. Firstly, Ukraine, of course, Ukraine recovery and reconstruction. Well, Mark was talking about that last week. Next is the Trinity House Defence Agreement that we've talked about, which includes, as we say, lots of unautonomous vehicles, strengthening the eastern flank and submarine hunting capabilities. And then the real focus, strengthening defence, industrial and export cooperation. Another one is Strategic Science and Technology Partnership, which is all about AI and the so-called critical tech. So this is war related as well, because of course, autonomous vehicles and so on is right at the heart of this. They single out the Western Balkans for particular focus to support stability and security. And naturally, that means the opposite, because that's more or less evidenced by the fact, for example, that anywhere conflict and security and stability money goes, it's the conflict which is secured and stabilized, not any kind of peace. Now, China is not specifically mentioned because they instead wrap that up in the language of Indo-Pacific cooperation. Strengthening coordination on regional and maritime security, they say, and of course that means war with China. Biosecurity, naturally, is in the list, including preparing for new and re-emerging highly pathogenic pathogens, and setting up joint exercises and an emergency support system between the UK and Germany. And Strategic Sustainable Development Partnership is included to advance the 2030 agenda. The rest is more or less just fluff. So there's nothing genuinely unique about this agreement with Germany, other than it's another step towards a plan which has really been in motion since 1986. And of course, we're talking about the Defence Union on that. And if you want to understand the timeline since 1986 on this, get onto the UK Column website and look for EU Military Union or EU Military Integration, and you'll find lots there. Okay, let's move on. If you like what the UK Column does, you would like to support us, the link to take you to the page with all the details is on the front page of the UK Column website, which of course is at ukcolumn.org. We absolutely need your continued support, and thank you again to everybody that is offering that. Now, if you're not able to support us financially, then please do share material, because that kind of help absolutely helps as well. Now, 7 o'clock tonight, Jerm is speaking to Charles and myself once again on the weekly banter. So join us for that. Another reminder, the tickets for the York event, which is on Saturday the 18th of October this year, go on sale on the 20th of July. So please keep that date in your diary and pick up a ticket if you possibly can, or more than one if there's more than one of you going. Another quick reminder of Sandy's event, or an event that Sandy's speaking at, and Andrew Bridgen as well, the Dissident Southwest meetup, which is taking place this weekend. Details on screen at the moment and in the show notes. And Patrick, very quickly then, next Friday the 25th, sorry, in the Seven Stars Hotel in Totnes, you'll be introducing Andrew Bridgen.
Yeah, that's going to be, I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, Andrew's something that we really admire over the years for taking principled stands, especially out of Parliament as well. And he's going to be telling his story and talking a lot about the real important issues, the fundamental issues of freedom of speech, civil liberty, freedom of the press, and health freedom. All of that is going to be spoken. And there'll be a good Q&A session as well at the end of that. So I think it's going to be a nice gathering. Tickets are going fast. There's only a few left. So if you want to attend that, we'd love to see you there.
Super. Fantastic. Mark, let's